It's the centre of government within the Empire. It's the seat of the Imperial throne. Hi, I'm your host Heatwave, and in today's lore episode, I'll be covering the Imperial Palace. It's a great sight. Its towering walls and monolithic spires. I love it. A symbol of our triumph. Who would dare fight us? Who would be so stupid? Welcome back to the Wings of Fire spin-off series Empire of Pareena. In this lore episode, I'll be exploring the Imperial Palace, but one episode covering everything to do with the palace would get messy and confusing. So I'll be breaking this down into a set of sub-episodes discussing this single topic. Episode 1 will focus on the history of the Imperial Palace and its outer walls, along with the first city, a little bit of backstory. Episode 2 will focus on the inner sanctum and chambers of the Imperial Palace. Episode 3 will focus on the catacombs underground, under the palace. Episode 4 will focus on the palace guard, the custodians. And Episode 5 will focus on the Imperator, those that have come before and those are in power now. Now, I'm a historian, not an architect, so I am sorry if the diagrams that I've shown here are a bit inconsistent and inconclusive sometimes. The Imperial Palace is the single greatest architectural marvel known in dragon history. It's the centre of government and control within Pareena, holding the Imperial throne, the departments of the government, the Imperial Library, and vast underground armories, and defended by warrior knights of an old age in Pareena's history. The palace is basically a stronghold, designed to withstand any war that could wash over the Empire. Surrounding the palace is the first city. This cobblestone metropolis is the melting pot of dragon culture, having the largest concentration of mixed dragon winglets anywhere else in the Empire. The first city was originally built by the work crews who built the palace many cycles ago after the War of Unification. As the palace got bigger and bigger, the city around it grew in size and shape. It was only in 1209 that anyone really cared about the city. Emperor Golf foresaw a space the dragons could call home, could learn and prosper for all of Pareena to enjoy. Thus began construction of schools, hospitals, infrastructure, and private businesses. By 1934, the first city took its final form as the city home to almost 26,000 thriving dragons, full schools and humming factories. Placed in a ring configuration, the city is divided into sectors. The center of the city is the monument to the first empress. A beautiful stone and marble statue of the first empress stands proudly in front of the Imperial Palace, a shining beacon to the empire. The statue was commissioned in 1503, but some more historically minded dragons complain that it depicts the empress in a fictional way. On the ground surrounding the base of the statue, dragonets often leave offerings to the first empress. It's said it will bring good luck, but it's just to honour her memory. They offer up things such as toys, gold, books, or other odds and trinkets. The statue is situated in a small garden space, bringing much-needed greenery to the city. Around all this lies a centre ring road and further roads and pathways that lead to the many entrances of the city. Originally they were just dirt roads, but later on they were paved in stone. These roads are used to move material and resources around the city. Dragons are asked to stay off the roads for safety reasons. The streets, though, are lit by large glow lamps. These spheres of glass are mounted on a pole and powered by massive underground gas turbine engines that are situated under the Imperial Palace. Now I'll discuss the different sectors. So we'll start with the southeast of the city in its industrial sector, holding all the factories and foundries that produce the more advanced goods of Pareena. Things like military equipment, for example. These factories are privately owned, and I'll cover them in greater detail in their own lore episode. The factory district also holds the old railway lines that were removed in late 2120 when a more commercial transport system was created in the form of old military tanks. Just outside the palace are the sprawling marketplaces. These public spaces allow for dragons to sell anything and everything, from talon-made trinkets to exotic prey and other services. Many dragons use this as a legitimate form of income. The dragons must set up their own stall and market themselves. In the center part of the city are more establishments, such as jewelers, taverns, and other businesses. It's also in this section of the city we see public schools, hospitals, and communal bathing houses and communal feasting houses, where dragons can come together for a free meal or keep a good sense of hygiene. The final outer section is dedicated to residential spaces, public play spaces, and communal boarding houses. The final outer area is a simple high stone wall. Now, I'll say it now, the first city has a no-fly zone placed over it. Due to the spaces and airspace being crowded by hauling vehicles, it's not safe for dragons to fly over the city or in or out of the city. Any topic I glossed over, don't worry, I'll cover it in its own lore episode down the road. Now let's actually talk about the Imperial Palace. Construction first began in Cycle 34. The lower valley was chosen as the best location due to its flat grassland. The first example of the palace was a temporary stone stronghold to where the larger structure was built over. The whole project would take the next 600 cycles to complete, but further updates wouldn't be complete until 1240, and the catacombs below wouldn't be complete until 1456. The outer walls form a triangle shape but are not as straight, they have a slight curve to them. On the outer side of the western wall is a large square courtyard with a unique gravel ground. Soft pebbles and gravel are used a lot over the first city. This space is used for ceremonies and military presentation. On the northern wall are two massive doors that need to be cranked open. These doors lead down into the catacombs and stores. The Imperial Army uses it to garrison its war machines and equipment when not in use, and thus they use this door to get into it. Each outer wall stands at 5 kilometers in height, 2 kilometers in length, and at the top about 1 kilometer thick. Each wall is identical in size. The top of each wall features a few pathways and lookouts, providing an expansive view of the city below and Claw Mountain in the distance. The wall tops are also home to the private gardens and hedgerows, first started by Empress Lavender, who grew fruits and flowers in her spare time. Nestled on the western wall is the Gilded Academy for Dragonettes. I went to this school myself, actually. This academy of higher learning was set up for dragonettes of those who work within the palace, such as admin clerks, department staff, and orderlies. The school has a nice centre fountain, but I'll cover it in more detail upon looking inside the palace. Each wall features 24 positions for 24 203mm Earthshaker guns. A recent addition to the Imperial Palace, these guns can fire at distant targets to defend the palace. At this point, the palace is more of a fortress than a simple place of government. The guns can retract into the walls to protect them from the elements. These wall guns are operated by Imperial Army, but this formation of artillery crew are independent of the wider army and actually come under the command of the Custodial Guard. These crews look like regular inductii except for a more stylish armor and a unique symbol on their bakama. I'll talk more about the gun stations and ammunition stores in the next episode on the inner workings of the palace. At the front of the palace are the Great Steps. Now, why would dragons need steps? They fly. The act of going up is easy for them. They sometimes use ramps, but steps have more of a symbolic meaning than that of a practical one. There are only 50 large steps, and its design is to slow a dragon down, give them time to reflect, to take time in the awe of the palace, its spires and banners. Each step is inscribed with important dates in Pareena's history, like all moments have led to here. The steps end at a small flat space that leads to the palace doors. These ornate wooden doors hold a carved symbol of the imperial seal and other details. The door is large, being able to fit 3 mud wings, if they were standing on top of each other, that is, so about 15 meters in height. This door leads to the central hall, a large space to gather, and that leads further into the palace. The Imperial Palace has a lot of verticality, being built up or down, the walls hugging close to the inner structures. Behind the centre hall is the domicile that the Imperial Parliamentary Government sits in. It's a stained glass dome that delivers a healthy amount of sunlight into the chamber. Behind that is the primary complex. This structure holds everything: department offices, the library, and private meeting spaces. Further behind that is the Tower of the Imperator. This tower is based on the Black Obelisk in Shady Sands, which was the original palace of the Tyrant of the Mojave, so this tower was based on the obelisk. The tower is the personal office and living chambers of the current Imperator. It's also home to any spaces for dragonettes that the Imperator may have, and the personal apothecary of the Imperator also resides in the tower. There are other towers too, lookouts, public meeting spaces, but this tower, here on the western side of the palace, is my workplace. It's my broadcast station, with a nice antenna placed on top. I actually get a good view of the city from below. Now, we have had some difficulties with this antenna. The wind really likes pushing it over, so we've had to tether it down. It is the central broadcasting relay that all of the Empire uses, or at least my department does, to send out our broadcast messages. Thanks for watching. Please remember to leave a comment, like, or subscribe to help the algorithm present this content to a wider audience. And don't forget the channel goals with special rewards. This is Heatwave, signing off.